My name is Mark, 38M, and my wife, Lisa, 34F, has betrayed me in the worst way possible. We've been married for 10 years. I thought we were happy or at least stable. Sure, things weren't perfect, what marriage is. But I never imagined she would do something like this. I trusted her. I loved her. Then one night I found out the truth. Lisa had been going out more often, claiming she was meeting up with friends or running errands. At first, I didn't think much of it. But then I noticed something strange. She would always call for a taxi, even when her car was parked right outside. That's when my gut told me something was off. One evening, she left the house dressed up more than usual. I waited a few minutes, then followed her in my car. I kept my distance, watching as she got into a taxi at the end of the street. I expected her to go somewhere. Maybe a restaurant, maybe a hotel. But she never made it that far. At a red light, I watched as she leaned over the front seat and kissed the driver. My heart stopped. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. This wasn't just a random stranger. This was someone she had been seeing, someone she trusted enough to cheat with right in the open. And that's when I knew I wasn't just going to walk away from this. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel so hard my hands ached. Lisa was still in that taxi, still kissing him like I didn't exist. My wife, the woman I had built my life with, and she was throwing it all away for a taxi driver. My pulse pounded in my ears. I wanted to storm over, yank the door open, and drag her out. I wanted to scream in her face, demand answers. Why him? How long? Did you ever love me at all? But I didn't. Instead, I forced myself to think. Lisa had no idea I was watching. She thought she was getting away with this. That gave me an advantage. If I acted now, in the heat of the moment, I'd lose that. So I did nothing. I watched as the light turned green and the taxi drove off. Lisa still inside, completely unaware that her secret was no longer a secret. But she'd find out soon enough. Because I wasn't going to let this go. Not this time. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I parked a few blocks away from the house and sat in the dark, my mind racing. I replayed what I saw over and over. Lisa leaning forward, her lips touching his, the way she smiled after, like a teenager in love, like I never existed. The rage inside me burned hotter with each passing second. But I wasn't going to act on impulse. No, if I was going to do something, it had to be smart. So I started digging. First, I tracked Lisa's phone. We had shared locations for years, something she probably forgot about. I pulled up the app and checked where she was heading. My stomach twisted when I saw the dot settle on a cheap motel across town. She wasn't just cheating. She was spending the night with him. I clenched my jaw. I needed to know more. Who was this man? How long had this been going on? If Lisa thought she could play me for a fool, she was about to find out just how wrong she was. I opened my laptop and started searching. It didn't take long. The taxi company had a public roster of drivers. A few minutes later, I found him. Daniel Carter, 40 years old, divorced, 2 kids. My wife was cheating on me with a middle-aged taxi driver with child support payments. I nearly laughed at the absurdity of it. But then something else caught my eye. A mugshot. My pulse quickened as I clicked on it. Assault. Fraud. Domestic violence. Lisa had no idea who she was dealing with. For a brief moment, I considered warning her. Then I remembered how she had kissed him. How she had lied to my face for who knows how long. No, she didn't deserve my protection. But Daniel? Daniel deserved my full attention. And I was going to make sure he got it. I wasn't going to sit around and wonder. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I left my car parked down the street and took a cab of my own. One that dropped me off a block away from the motel Lisa's location pinpointed. The place was as pathetic as I imagined. Flickering neon sign, cracked pavement, and a vending machine that probably hadn't been refilled in years. I stayed in the shadows, my hood pulled low. Then I saw her.
Lisa.
She stepped out of a taxi, smiling, her hair slightly messy, like she had been fixing it up for him. She checked her phone, probably texting me some lie about how she was grabbing drinks with the girls. Before heading inside, I followed, careful to keep my distance. Room 108. That's where she was. The curtains were slightly open, just enough for me to see inside. My stomach clenched when I spotted Daniel sitting on the bed, casually drinking a beer. He was exactly the type of guy I expected. Rugged, arrogant, the kind of man who didn't care about anything but himself. Lisa tossed her purse on the nightstand and laughed at something he said. She leaned down, pressing her lips to his neck. I saw red. It took every ounce of control not to break the door down right then and there. No, I had to be smart. I pulled out my phone and hit record. Lisa had no idea that tonight, she wasn't just betraying me. She was exposing herself. And I was going to make sure she regretted it. I stood outside room 108, my phone steady in my hands, recording every disgusting second of Lisa's betrayal. Her giggles, his hands on her waist, the way she whispered something in his ear before he pulled her onto the bed. It was all there. Evidence. Proof. The final nail in the coffin of our marriage. But I wasn't here just to catch them in the act. I was here to end this. I tucked my phone into my pocket and walked back to my car, my heart hammering like a war drum. I had two choices: confront them like a man who had just been humiliated, or play this smart and make them suffer in a way they'd never see coming. I chose the latter. Lisa thought she was untouchable, that I'd just roll over and accept it. But what she didn't know was that Daniel wasn't just some low-life taxi driver. He had a criminal record, and I knew exactly how to use that against him. Sitting in my car, I made a call. Detective Grant, this is Mark Thompson. I need to report some suspicious activity. I fed him just enough information. Daniel Carter, known history of fraud, currently dealing drugs out of room 108 at the Crescent Motel. A lie? Maybe. But considering Daniel's past, would the cops question it? Not likely. And Lisa? She was about to find out exactly what it felt like to be caught in the middle of something she couldn't talk her way out of. I sat back, watching the motel from a distance, waiting for the sirens to come. And when they did, I smiled. I stayed parked down the street, gripping the steering wheel, pulse racing. Then, right on cue, flashing red and blue lights, a police cruiser rolled into the motel lot. Then another. 2 officers stepped out, moving fast. I watched as they headed straight for room 108. Perfect. From my spot, I could just barely see through the window. Lisa and Daniel were still inside. Daniel drinking, Lisa curled up next to him like she actually belonged there. Then a knock at the door. Lisa jumped. Daniel frowned. I knew exactly what was going through his head. A guy like him, with his record, a random police visit meant only one thing: danger. I saw him hesitate before standing up. He cracked the door open, just enough for one officer to shove it wide and step inside. Then everything happened fast. Lisa gasped. Daniel bolted toward the nightstand, but the second cop had already drawn his weapon. Hands where we can see them. I swear. I could hear Lisa's shriek from inside my car. Daniel had no idea what was happening, but he knew one thing for sure. He couldn't afford another arrest. So, like an idiot, he ran. Straight out the back window.
Lisa.
She just stood there, completely frozen, as the officers swarmed the room, searching the place, looking for the drugs that weren't there. I chuckled darkly. She had no clue she had just walked into a perfectly laid trap. Now, her precious Daniel was a fugitive, and Lisa? She was standing in the middle of a police raid she couldn't explain. I started my car and pulled away from the curb. My work here was done. But Lisa's nightmare? It was just beginning. I drove away slowly, savoring the moment. Lisa had no idea what had just hit her. She had walked into that motel thinking she was safe, thinking she was in control. Now, she was surrounded by cops, her lover was on the run, and the man she had betrayed? I was out here watching her world burn. But I wasn't done yet. I pulled into a quiet parking lot and checked my phone. The video, the one I had recorded of her and Daniel in that room, wrapped up in each other like I never existed. I watched it once. Then I sent it. First to her parents. Then to her boss. Then to our closest friends. No context.
No explanation.
Just a simple message. This is who Lisa really is. I imagined her phone vibrating inside that motel, blowing up with messages, the walls closing in around her. I wanted her to feel cornered. I wanted her to panic. And right on cue, my phone rang.
Lisa.
I let it ring. Then again. And again. By the fourth call, I answered. But I didn't say a word. Mark. Oh my God. Where are you? You have to help me. I stayed silent. Lisa's voice cracked. The police. Daniel, he ran. And now they're asking me questions. And, what did you do? I let out a slow breath. Then, in the calmest voice possible, I said, I did what you deserved. Silence. Then a whisper. Mark? Please. I smirked. Now you're begging? Where was that energy when you were cheating on me in a dirty motel?
Achò que soube.
I messed up. Just come get me. We can talk about this. I laughed. And then I hung up. Lisa had nowhere to run. And that was exactly what she deserved. I tossed my phone onto the passenger seat and leaned back, exhaling slowly. Lisa was desperate. Panicked. Good. But I wasn't done. Not even close. I pulled up our shared bank account on my phone. Drained it. Every last cent. I had been planning this since the moment I caught her. Transferring our savings into a private account. Cutting her off completely. She had nothing now. Her phone kept buzzing. Another call. Another plea. I let it go to voicemail. A few minutes later, a text came through. Lisa, Mark, please. I don't know what's happening. My parents are calling me. My boss just messaged me. What did you send them? I smiled. Then another text.
Lisa, I'm sorry.
Please, I'll do anything. Just talk to me. Anything? Too late for that. Instead of replying, I sent her one last thing. A screenshot of our empty bank account. Immediately, my phone rang. I answered this time. Mark, what the hell? Where's our money? I took a moment, letting the silence stretch, letting her panic sink in. Then, calmly, I said, you lost the right to call it our money when you started screwing a taxi driver in a motel. Lisa gasped, like the truth actually hurt. I didn't mean for this to happen. I cut her off. But it did. And now you get to live with it. I hung up before she could say another word. And then, just for fun, I blocked her number. Lisa was drowning, and I had no intention of throwing her a lifeline. Lisa was trapped, and she knew it. Her perfect little double life, destroyed.
Her precious lower.
A fugitive. Her reputation, shattered. Her bank account, empty. But I wasn't finished yet. I wanted to watch her break. I pulled into the motel parking lot, far enough away that she wouldn't see me. I wanted to see what desperation looked like on her face. And then there she was. Lisa burst out of room 108, her hair a mess, her phone clutched tightly in one shaking hand. She was frantic, pacing back and forth, trying to call someone. Anyone. But I had made sure she had no one left. Her parents had disowned her. Her boss had fired her. Her friends? They all saw the video. They knew who she really was. Lisa was alone. She ran to the motel office, probably hoping to book another night. But when she pulled out her card and swiped, declined. I smirked. Then the final touch. I rolled down my window and called out, voice calm, casual. Hey, Lisa. She froze. Slowly, she turned. And when her eyes met mine, pure terror. She knew. She knew I was the one who had done all of this. She stormed toward my car, face twisted in anger, desperation. Mark, please, just talk to me. I didn't mean to hurt you. I tilted my head. You didn't mean to? I was confused. I wasn't thinking straight. She pleaded, her voice cracking. I just made a mistake. I stared at her, expression unreadable. Then I leaned forward, my voice low, final.
No, Lisa.
You made a choice, and now you get to live with it. Tears welled up in her eyes. Mark, I have nowhere to go. I shrugged. Not my problem. Then I put the car in drive and left her standing there, broken, ruined, and exactly where she deserved to be. I drove off slowly, watching Lisa shrink in my rearview mirror. She didn't chase after me. She just stood there, frozen, helpless. I wanted her to feel it. The same powerlessness I felt when I saw her with Daniel. The The same betrayal that had burned through my veins when I realized our marriage was a lie. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I pulled into a gas station parking lot a few blocks away and checked my phone. One last move. Lisa had burned our vows. Our home. Our life. Now I was going to burn her future. I typed out an email. To Lisa's new landlord. Subject: tenant background check concern. Hello. I recently discovered that Lisa, last name, has a history of fraud and infidelity. I thought you should be aware before finalizing anything. I can provide evidence if needed. Asterisk. I sent another to her future employer. Then another to her creditors. And just to be sure, I filed for divorce. By morning, Lisa wouldn't just be jobless, penniless, and abandoned. She'd be homeless, too. I wanted her to see what it felt like when the world stopped giving second chances. When she realized that some mistakes, they can't be undone. I parked my car at home, stepped inside, and for the first time in weeks, I felt peace.
Lisa.
She was finished. She just didn't know it yet. I checked my email. The responses were rolling in. Her future employer revoked her job offer. Her landlord denied her lease application. Her credit inquiry flagged for fraud review. She had nothing left. Then my phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. Lisa, Mark, please, I need you. I stared at the words. Just days ago, I would have ached seeing her like this. I would have wanted to fix things, to believe the woman I married was still somewhere in there. But now, I felt nothing. So I responded with the only words she deserved.
No, Lisa.
You needed me when you had a husband. Now you need to figure this out on your own. Delivered. Read. No reply. I set my phone down and exhaled. Lisa's world had collapsed. And for the first time in a long time, I was finally free. Days passed. Lisa didn't call. Didn't text. I figured she finally understood. She wasn't getting out of this. She wasn't talking her way back into my life. Then one night, a knock on my door. I already knew who it was before I opened it. Lisa stood there, drenched from the rain, a shadow of herself. Her makeup was smudged, her clothes wrinkled, her once proud posture gone. She looked broken. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. What do you want? Her lip trembled. Mark, I have nowhere else to go. I raised an eyebrow. Not my problem. She swallowed hard. Please, I know I messed up. I ruined everything. But you were my best friend. My home. I cut her off.
No, Lisa.
I was your husband. And you threw me away for a guy who didn't even stick around. She flinched, but I wasn't done. I gave you everything. And you repaid me with lies, betrayal, and excuses. Now, you're only here because you have no other options. Not because you love me. Not because you regret it. But because you have nothing left. Tears slipped down her cheeks. That's not true. I sighed. I didn't care anymore. I reached inside, grabbed a manila envelope, and held it out. Here. She hesitated. What is it? Divorce papers. Her face crumpled. Mark, please don't do this. I stepped back. Calm. Cold. Done. Sign them. And don't come back. Then I shut the door in her face. And just like that, Lisa was gone from my life. Forever. The door clicked shut. I stood there for a moment, listening to the silence. No more lies. No more betrayals. No more Lisa. I glanced out the window. She was still standing there, clutching the divorce papers like they were her last lifeline. For a second, I thought she might fight it, might beg. But then, something changed. She looked down at the envelope, shoulders slumping. Then, without another word, she turned and walked away, disappearing into the night. And just like that, it was over.
No screaming.
No grand apologies. No last-minute confessions of love. Just the end. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. I had spent so much time drowning in anger, in heartbreak, in the need for revenge. And now there was nothing left to hold on to. I wasn't happy. Not yet. But I was free. And that was enough. For now. Thank you for staying with me. This crazy journey is finally over and I'm ready for what's next. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more interesting stories. And leave a comment with what you would do in this situation. See you in the next videos.